You know that moment when someone does. You dirty and your brain instantly starts writing a whole revenge movie in 4K detail. They embarrass you in front of others, sabotage you at work, talk behind your back, or just quietly root for your failure. And somewhere in you, there's this very calm, very dangerous part that goes, I will remember this. But then real life kicks in. You can't just go full villain mode. You can't burn everything down without burning yourself with it. You've got bills, a reputation, people who actually care about you, responsibilities. So you swallow it. You move on, kind of. And that anger just sits there. This is where most people get stuck. They think they have only two options: either explode and make things worse, or be the bigger person and just let it go while the other person walks away untouched. Machiavelli would look at that and laugh, because there is a third option. It's slower, it's quieter, and it's much, much more brutal in the long run. You don't destroy your enemies by attacking them directly. You destroy them by mastering patience so well that their own behavior, their own impulsiveness, their own ego does most of the work for you. You become the one person in the entire situation who refuses to rush. Think about this. The people who hurt you the most are usually impulsive. They can't resist making that snide comment. They can't resist taking that petty shot. They can't resist proving they're right now. And every time they do, they leave fingerprints on their reputation, on their relationships, on how people quietly start to see them. The Machiavellian law of patience is simple. To say hard to live, never interrupt an enemy who is in the process of destroying themselves. Direct attacks wake them up. Patience lets them sleepwalk into their own downfall. But this isn't just sit back and do nothing. That's not patience. That's avoidance. Real patience is active. It's strategic. It's you saying, I'm going to slow down my reaction, but I'm going to speed up my awareness. So let's break this down in a way you can actually use without blowing up your life or turning into some bitter cartoon villain. Imagine there's someone at work or in your friend group or even in your family who has made themselves your enemy. Maybe not openly. They smile at you, but they don't want you to win. They comment in a way that makes you look incompetent. They conveniently forget to invite you. They plant little seeds of doubt about you in other people's heads. The natural reaction is to call them out in front of everyone or gossip back or expose them dramatically. And maybe there are moments where you have to speak up, sure, but Machiavellian impatience asks a different first question. What do they want me to do? Right now? If they want you to snap, you don't. If they want you to overreact, you underreact. If they want you to look emotional and unstable, you let them. Carry that energy while you look boringly calm. You're not being weak. You're denying them the scene they were hoping for. So how do you actually apply this? Let's start with step 1 of patience. Observation without performance. Most people watch their enemies like they're watching a show, while simultaneously acting in it. They react on impulse. You're going to do the opposite. You become a quiet collector of patterns. Instead of thinking they're annoying, you start thinking, when do they strike? Who do they strike around? What triggers them? What's their favorite weapon? Sarcasm, lies, guilt, victimhood, charm? Yeah, this sounds a little clinical and cold, but that's the point. Emotion clouds timing. Patience clears it. You're not stalking them. You're just paying really close attention every time they cross paths with you. You notice who believes them. You notice who rolls their eyes. You notice who seems uncomfortable but that stays silent. You're mapping the battlefield. Because here's the thing, patience without information is just waiting around. Patience with information is strategy. After a while, you start to see something interesting. Your enemy is not some mysterious mastermind. They're predictable. They use the same tactics, the same tone, the same little moves, because that's what's worked for them before. And once someone becomes predictable, they become beatable. Step 2 of Machiavellian patience is emotional delay, not emotional. Suppression, delay. When they say or do something that lights you up inside, instead of reacting in that same moment, you mentally mark it. You tell yourself, not now, later. You can even imagine a literal shelf in your mind where you put that moment. Sounds cheesy, but it works. Because what ruins most people in conflict isn't what was done to them. It's how they reacted in the heat of the moment. You've seen this, someone says. Something disrespectful, and instead of handling it with calm strength, the other person explodes, cries, throws out, insults, threatens. And guess what? People remember? Not the initial disrespect, the reaction. You don't want that. So when your enemy takes a shot at you do 3 things. You breathe, literally 1 or 2 deeper breaths. It buys your brain a few seconds. You look at them, not away, just long enough to show you've registered it, and then you respond only if needed and with less words than you want to use. Sometimes, the most Machiavellian sentence is noted, or we can discuss this properly later, or just silence and a slight smile. It's not about playing cool for ego. It's about preserving your ability to choose your timing later when you're not flooded with emotion. Because here's where the law of patience gets slightly evil, but in a clean way. The longer your enemy believes they're getting away with something, the bolder they become. They push further. They take bigger risks. They talk a little louder to more people. They get sloppy. They think your silence means weakness, but it doesn't. It means you're letting the rope loosen. So when it tightens hard. Now, before this starts sounding like it, I'm telling you to become a professional grudge holder. Let's add something important. Patience isn't just about them. It's about you building position while they burn theirs. This is step 3. While they're busy playing small games, you're making long game moves. Instead of obsessing over every petty thing they do, you use that energy elsewhere. You build your competence. You quietly stack small wins that don't need their approval. You strengthen relationships with people who are respected and level-headed. You become known as someone reliable, someone useful, someone who doesn't create drama. You don't announce, "I'm taking the high road." You just live it. And there's a reason for this. When the time comes, because it usually does, where their behavior finally crosses a visible line and people start to notice, they're going to try to drag your name into it. They were mean to me too. They're just as bad. They're the reason I'm acting like this. If up to that point you've been messy, impulsive, and reactive, people will believe them. If up to that point you've been consistent and grounded, that story doesn't land as, well, it doesn't match the data people have collected on you. Machiavellian. Patience is not passive, it's you, building your credibility while your enemy slowly erodes theirs. Let me give you an example that you can probably adapt to your own life. Imagine there's a coworker, let's call them X, who has decided your competition. You weren't even trying to compete, but they decided you're a threat or an easy target. So X starts doing subtle things accidentally, leaving you off emails, talking over you, in meetings, dropping little hints to your manager that you're still learning, or not very experienced with that yet, even when you are. Now, you could run to your manager every time and say, "They did this, they said that," but that often makes you look like the problem. Or you could do nothing and let X undermine you forever. Also not a win. The law of patience suggests something else. First, you keep quiet track. You save those emails. You write down dates and situations for your own memory. Not to obsess, but to be precise later if needed. You don't confront them every single time. You let a pattern form. Second, you overcommunicate clearly and professionally with everyone else. Not in an anxious way, but in a way that makes it very hard for X to misrepresent. You send follow-up emails, summarizing what was agreed on, UCC. Relevant people. You ask clarifying questions in writing. Third, you focus on doing your work well and making sure others see the results, not through bragging, but by taking on projects where your output is visible. You volunteer for things where your strengths show up. Now, here's what normally happens over time. X continues their little sabotage game. But because you're not reacting wildly, they get overconfident. They start making bolder claims, maybe. They take credit for something you did. Maybe they forget something critical and blame it on you. That's where patience pays off. Because now, instead of going to your manager with vague complaints, you can calmly say, I've noticed some recurring issues and I want to clear the air and focus on doing good work. Here are a few examples of what I mean. And you have specifics, dates, emails, instances. You're not whining. You're presenting data. And at the same time, your manager already has a history of you showing up reliably. So when X gets defensive, dramatic, or starts lying in the moment, who looks? Worse, you didn't have to scheme or smear. You just waited long enough for the truth to have weight. That's ruining an enemy the Machiavellian way, not by smashing them, but by creating the conditions where they expose themselves and then calmly letting reality catch up to them. Now, this doesn't just apply at work. It applies to social circles, toxic exes, fake friends, even online. Beef. If someone is trying to paint you as the villain, the loudest instinct is to shout back, post screenshots, defend yourself to every single person. Sometimes you do have to defend yourself, yes, but patience asks, is this the moment that matters most, or is there a better moment down the line where fewer words will do more damage? In friend groups, for example, if someone is constantly bringing your name up negatively when you're not around yet, some point that pattern gets tiring. People start to notice, why are they always talking about them? If in contrast, you rarely bring that person up, you don't talk trash, and when you do talk about them, you're almost annoyingly fair. It creates a contrast, and humans notice contrasts more than isolated behavior. So what does this law of patience require from you personally? Number one, the ability to tolerate being misunderstood temporarily. This is probably the hardest part. Sometimes while you're being patient, people will believe the story your enemy is telling about you. You'll want to break character and start screaming. That's not what happened. And honestly, there are moments where you should correct the record. But if you jump to defend yourself every single time, you look guilty and easily rattled. The Machiavellian play is selective correction. You pick your battles. You correct what truly matters and let the small misperceptions fade. Because in the long run, they don't survive. Evidence. Number two, you have to be okay with slow wins if you want. Instant satisfaction, this style of power will drive you insane. Patience is not sexy in the moment. It looks like eating your ego over and over, but what you're really doing is protecting your future. You're trading cheap short-term revenge for long-term positioning. Ask yourself honestly, do you want to feel right now, or do you want to actually win later? Number three, you cannot secretly root your entire life in proving them wrong. This is another trap. You tell yourself you're being patient, but really everything you do is still about them. You're still paying them rent in your head. That's not power. That's obsession in a nicer outfit. The healthiest Machiavellian move is this. You use them as fuel at the beginning, sure, but over time you shift to a deeper reason. You grow, you build, you improve because you want a better life, not just a better comeback. If their name still runs your entire internal motivation years later, they haven't been ruined. They're still controlling you, just from a distance. Let's talk about another angle. Sometimes the most Machiavellian way to ruin an enemy is to stop being their enemy at all. Not by becoming friends, by becoming irrelevant. There are people whose entire power comes from the fact that you're locked into a fight with them. They bait you, you bite, they get attention, drama, and a sense of importance. They become the person who's against you, and that gives their life structure. If one day you just opt out, you stop responding, you stop checking their moves, you block, mute, or emotionally detach, you move on to a bigger playing field that can be more devastating than any argument, because suddenly they've lost their main story line. They're standing there shadow, boxing with someone who isn't in the ring anymore. To everyone else, it starts to look weird. Why are they still talking about this? Why are they still bringing your name up when you've clearly moved on? In that sense, patience is not just sitting and waiting for karma. It's actively building a life so full that their existence shrinks down to a footnote. If you're dealing with someone right now who feels like an enemy, maybe they really hurt you, maybe they embarrassed you, maybe they tried to break your confidence. There's a good chance part of you still wants a specific moment, the apology, the public humiliation, the "you were right, I was wrong." You might get that, but you probably won't. The Machiavellian law of patience asks you to aim for a different kind of victory, not the dramatic scene, the quiet, boring reality that years from now you are in a better place, and they are stuck in the same patterns that made them your enemy in the first place. You don't have to forgive them if you're not ready. You don't have to forget what they did, but you do have to decide whether they get to steal not just your past, but your future attention too. One of the most powerful forms of patience is this line: I'll let time show what I don't need to prove. That doesn't mean you never defend yourself. It means that once you've said and done what's reasonable, you don't chase every opinion. You give time a chance to do some of the heavy lifting. So let's pull this together into something simple you can actually remember and use. When someone makes themselves your enemy, first observe more than you react. Notice patterns, who they talk to, how they operate, what they want. Make your mind a camera, not a megaphone. Second, delay your emotional reactions, not forever, just long enough to choose a response that serves you long-term, not just your anger short-term. Third, build your position while they burn theirs. Improve your skills, strengthen your network, and quietly stack credibility. Don't let the conflict become your whole identity. Fourth, choose your moment. When a clear, undeniable pattern has emerged and there is actually something to be gained from speaking up or stepping in, then you act calmly, specifically without theatrics. And finally, allow irrelevance to be one of your weapons. Sometimes the way you ruin an enemy is by making their opinion, their drama, and their existence and non-essential to your life. And you're not required to spend your entire story trying to get back at people who hurt you in chapter 2. If you use this law well, something subtle will change. In you, you'll stop feeling that panicked rush every time someone disrespects you. You'll still feel it. You're human. But under it, there'll be this quieter voice going, "Okay, I see. You and I know exactly what I'm doing." That calm is dangerous in a good way, because most people are still playing short-term games. They need to respond. Now clap back now, prove themselves now. And in that rush, they make mistakes that echo for years. You're learning to slow the game down. You're not powerless. You're just refusing to spend your power like lose change. And the funny thing is, once you master this kind of patience, you'll notice something else too. You'll have fewer true enemies, not because people stopped being messy, but because you stopped volunteering for every battle your ego invites you to. You pick your wars more carefully. You hold your fire longer. And when you finally move, it's not to ruin someone's life for fun. It's to protect your future and remove genuine threats to your peace. That's the difference between childish revenge and Machiavellian patience. One is about, how do I make them feel what I felt? The other is about, how do I make sure they never have this kind of power over me? Again, if you're still listening to this There's probably at least one person in your mind right now, someone who hurt you, someone who underestimated you, someone who thinks you won't recover. You don't need to tell them what you're going to do. Just start by taking your time back. Stop giving them instant reactions. Stop feeding them attention. Start quietly improving your position and let time do what it always does. Magnify the truth. That's the Machiavellian law of patience. You don't rush to ruin your enemies. You watch, you wait, you grow, and by the time they realize what happened, it's too late. They're stuck where they are and you're somewhere else entirely.